All squadrons are in position, General Fisto.
You may deploy when ready.
Commencing deployment. 3, 2, 1, march!
Alright, that's not quite what we got going on here, but it is part of the Star Wars active canon or current canon because it comes from the Clone Wars, unless of course Disney decides to say and throw it out. This is Star Wars West End Games called Battle for Golden Sun. It is an adventure with use of Star Wars, the role-playing game, and includes plus Imperial garrison plans, which is always nice. On an unexplored water planet, warring natives, a missing alliance, dignitary, and Imperial shock troops and rebel agents become entangled in the mystery of the Golden Sun. Kind of what I was looking at when I did the clip for the opening to give us a little bit of flavor and get us into the mood for what we're looking at here. This would have been, like I said, late 80s, I believe, early 1988 was when this was issued. So this would have been in the first or second run, probably the beginning of the second run of Adventure modules for the first edition. Second edition won't come out for another year, 2 years. So the genesis at that point was in the Star Wars universe, and Legends at the time was canon, Lucas canon. They didn't have any, well, a million worlds. So the odds were there were plenty of water, a lot of planets with water, a lot of water worlds. There would be special forces and special gear to allow people to operate in these environments. In this case, we have our sea troopers, and the rebels have a kind of a contingent that's loosely based on the ability of between naturally water breathing like the Mont Cal or somebody, and people with their own personal scuba gear, because they didn't have a regimented set of equipment such as the Empire had advantage to. The Empire also would have modified their garrison bases and things like this to either be operating under the water at depths of pressure or floating on the water as a man-made island. They would have adapted equipment such as swimmers and so on and so forth. We will see them in this book. This kind of sets, I don't want to say a precedence or nothing, but it's interesting that in later years or decades when I see some of the water aquatic planets and other places that this was foreshadowing a little bit of that in that aspect. So let's see, let's get into this thing. And we got, in this adventure, a group of rebels must travel to the Sedri system to rescue a missing Alliance dignitary and discover the secret of the mysterious Golden Sun. Whatever Golden Sun is, be it a blazing star or an alien device, the Alliance fears that it can be turned into an awesome weapon in the Empire's diabolic hands. Rebels take with them only person to return from the dignitary's doomed mission, his Mon Calamari aide. The aide did not return unscarred. Her mind, once sharp and quick, has become muddled and more than a little crazed. She rants about a golden sun and some strange happenings on a faraway watery world. Though her words make little sense, they do coincide with recent Imperial communiques which link Golden Sun rumors with unexplored Sedri. What happening to the dignitary and Spartan Sedri? What occurrence could be so frightening and traumatically this aid a gibbering wreck? The only clue may be the small green rock she clutches protectively to her breast. Will the rebels learn the secret of the Golden Sun? Can they rescue the missing dignitary, deal with the Imperial subjugation team, and keep a planetary disagreement from escalating into a civil war? These are the challenges that must be faced in Golden Sun. So preparing to play, adventure materials, adventure background, recent events. So basically, Sedri is one of those planets, those mini planets that were discovered at some point in the past, and because they weren't vitally important or fiscally important or rich in resources that couldn't be acquired easily other places, it kind of slipped through the cracks and has avoided updated maps and navigation libraries or whatever have you. So finding the places just a bit more. So this has been remained isolated and unknown for centuries. Says a strange phenomenon caused by one of Sedri's more unusual inhabitants wreaks havoc upon the hyperdrive instrumentation. Ships which rarely plot a course for the Sedri system via the hyperspace lanes find their instruments refuse to comply. Astrogation computers register Sedri as one huge sun, and as most ships carrying hyperdrive inhibitors prevent headlong trips into the raging stars, Sedri has remained undiscovered. So you have that in of itself will be an adventure trying to get to the system. Obviously, deactivating the inhibitors on your hyperdrive would probably be required, and then somebody with some pretty decent piloting skills. Recent events. Let's see. Recently, a group of renegade Senders led by a charismatic but power-hungry Carrick stole a small bit of the Golden Sun while preaching for distribution of the Golden Sun to all citizens. Carrack planned to use the powers of the stolen coral to overthrow the Fiste priest. Cardo, and the high priest of Fiste, was furious. He sent his warrior monks to drive the renegades out. Carrack and his followers fled into the vastness of the sea, taking their piece of the Golden Sun with them. Claiming religious persecution and violations of his people's rights, Carrack stirred unrest, blowing over Kettle Revolution. Then the off-world was arrived. Imperials were intrigued by their scouts' report when understandably reluctant to disengage their hyperdrive inhibitors were making them jump to Sedri. Unwilling to risk the ships or large amounts of material, they authorized only a small expedition. Without inhibitors, there have been some lost ships, but those that did arrive quickly started to establish Imperial presence with the construction of a garrison base under command of a ruthless officer named Abin. Meanwhile, a young Alliance dignitary and his faithful retainer, busy recruiting or securing supplies for rebellion, began to hear rumors of a new Imperial garrison on a strange and remote water world. Morris Orden and his Mon Calamari companion, Rakara, decided to get more involved directly in the war effort. So, adventure synopsis. The rebel party is sent to Sedri to recover the Moors under, investigate the Imperial activity, and learn what Golden Sun actually is. On Sedri, the Imperial garrison nears completion. Carrack, with the captured Alliance dignitary in tow, plans to deal with the Imperials for a half share of Fitzay's sun caves. Properly used, the Golden Sun should be able to hide Imperial fleets and planets the same way it hides Sedri from the galactic technology. With such an ability, the Empire would quickly be able to crush an unsuspecting rebellion. The half-saint Rakara as a guide to player characters must unite the two Sedran factions in time to face the impending Imperial attack. Then to rescue Moors Ardren, they must confront Carrack himself in the depths of the Sun Caves. And you get your list of main NPCs: Carrack, the bad guy; Cardo, Rakara, Commander Avon, Fallen, Peck. Episode 1, Crash on Sedri. Said, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, a navigational accident has led the Empire to the mysterious and legendary water world of Sedri. Recent communiques intercepted by Alliance Sky Network had increased Imperial activity on this unexplored planet. There have also been reports of potential weapon source, something referred to as the Golden Sun. The reports, if they can be believed, claim that with this unknown weapon, the Empire can quickly and utterly destroy the rebellion. With Alliance dignitary Moors Ardren heard these rumors, it took it upon himself to investigate Sedri. He never returned. His aide, a Mon Calamari named Rakara, did find her way back to a base, but to whatever befell to has driven Rakara insane. And now Rakara, muttering on about Golden Sun, accompanies a team of rebel agents to the mysterious water world. They must recover the missing dignitary, discover the secret of this new weapon before the Empire has a chance to use it against the Alliance. This group could be all that stands between the Empire and total control of the galaxy. This where you step in. So, start the adventure, the plunge, Players are finished reading the script, read the following aloud. There's one awful second when you're sure you're going to die. Then alarms start whooping somewhere and you drop out of hyperspace. You do not instantly disintegrate in a blazing inferno. Instead, you're floating in space above a water world. The surface of the world is completely covered with green oceans. You can't see any land. And then as you watch, a small golden spot appears on the ocean. It grows at a tremendous rate till the entire planet gleams gold. Rakira makes a strange gurgling sound. Then another alarm cuts in and your ship starts plunging toward the planet's surface. Perception roll from all player characters. Anyone making an easy difficulty roll knows a severe power surge has cut the ship's engines. Those making a moderate roll can trace the surge to the planet below. A wave of energy spread up from the surface, knocking out the computer controlling system. What do you do? What do you do? Then we got the hit for the bile for the planet Sedri. After the plunge, regaining control of your ship. Safe landing. Cut away the Imperial garrison. First clash. So let the players have a chance to sign equipment, sign a tender course of action, don't let them linger too long. Seem to do, uncertain what to do, move things along a little faster, more cinematic speed and action, and quick cuts are necessary for all Star Wars adventures. After a few moments of planning and discussion, interrupt them with the following. You read loud. You notice several white dots about 600 meters away to the southeast. A bellowing roar reaches you faintly, and you think you hear the sound of blaster fire. Look around, you instantly ask the players what they want to do. First Sea Trooper encounter. Rakira's rock. Rakira clutches a small greenish rock in her hand and will not let it go no matter what. There will be much screaming and kicking if someone tries to take it away. If she is subdued, she will pester whomever has the rock until they give it back. Rock is actually a piece of golden sun. The strange substance is that everyone is looking forward. Don't reveal this to the PCs until their adventure says to, and even if they figure it out on their own. Unless the rock reveals that it is some sort of coral configuration, but yields no other information. A Force user specifically tries will detect slight life emanations from the lump, providing he or she makes a moderate sense roll. This particular piece of golden sun, when ripped from the coral bread, projected its intense fear and pain directly in Rakira's soul. It did not mean to harm her, but the effect has driven her, the Moncal insane. Now that coral is in hibernation trance, trying to sustain its life until it can return to Sendri. Desperate battle. You see 5 stormtroopers on wave skinners, small one-man repulsor craft swirling around a rock outcropping which just a few feet from the sea, and the rock spin down by the sea troopers' fire is a huge seal-like creature with a humanoid upper torso and head. He wears some sort of headband or crown. He bellows with fear and anger as the sea troopers close. What will you do? Assuming you go to the natives' rescue, you meet Peck. Last stream's Sea Trooper has been defeated. The PC's chance to talk to Setter and Peck, even though they rescue him, Peck's a bit wary of the alien strangers. Let the PCs replay the meeting, doing their best to convince the Setter of their good intentions. Once cordial relations are started, Peck describes how the Imperials began arriving not too long ago in small ships and how they have been building their installation and killing the local sea life. He was scouting the installation on behalf of his father, High Priest Cardo of Fitze, when the Sea Troopers attacked him. He knows the location of the base, but demands the player characters coming to Fitze first. Now, this one of those things that kind of crop up. Wasn't there a Jedi, an aquatic Jedi named Fitze? Maybe it's not pronounced the same way. I'm pretty sure he was in the intro piece I snipped off the internet. Just saying, right? This particular module predates the Clone Wars animation series considerably. Don't know that there's any kind of tie-in here. The Sedran language, the next step. Company Peck to Fitze, especially since he promises to take them to the fish killers after he reports to his father. They refuse this offer. Peck returns with enough warrior monks to send the PCs to bring them anyway. Well, you're coming with me. Episode 2, The City of Fitze. USB. Arriving at Fitze, Sedran people, introducing the High Priest and the Priest of the Sun at the inn, talking underwater. The Sedran speak with booming voices that can be heard underwater. The rebels wear breath masks with built-in comlinks for communication among themselves. If they flip a switch, they can put their comlinks on speaker mode so that the Sedrans can hear them as well. Coming before the High Priest. In the center, pilgrims from all over the planet, rebels are provided rooms and materials to refresh themselves with while they wait to be called on to the high priest. PCs speak to any of the settlers at the end. The pilgrims explain they have come to pay homage to the Golden Sun. If asked what the Golden Sun is, the pilgrims simply smile knowingly and swim on. While the PCs are waiting at the end, have any force-using rebels make a sense or perception roll. If they make a moderate roll, they again feel a presence of force calling on them. This time it projects loneliness and claustrophobia, making the rebel experience these emotions in their rawest form. And as quickly as this manifests, its presence draws away. If the force-using rebels don't make the roll, they experience the powerful emotions without any sense of source or reason. Then the rebels get called to appear before the high priest. Nice little picture there of the high priest. High priest Cardo. But Cardo's arguments on character renegades. Carrack, once Fitzay's Bishop of War, has misled a small segment of the population. He guides his renegades down a dark path away from the golden light. He is nothing but a liar, thief, and a malcontent, spreading vicious lies in order to start a revolution. But we are the true guardians of the Golden Sun. The Imperials, the fish killers. Evil swims our seas and cased in shells and armed with powerful weapons. We must wait and see what the fish killers want before deciding a course of action. If we wait, they shall drift away with the rest of the flotsam. Golden Sun, you ask the golden seas of Golden Sun, of these things I cannot speak. Suffice to know that I am the caretaker of the high priest of Fitzay. Mysteries are for our people only, and for strangers, no matter how good their intentions. Morris Audrin, I know of no alliance dignitary. I never heard of Morris Audrin, nor or ever before seen the strange one you call Rakara. I do not know if the fish killers have your friend, but they do. That's not concern of my people. And other inevitable questions. Wandering around Fitzay, then you get a breakdown of the underwater city, various locations, and there was an attached map with this. There is a less than colorful one, but I had one to come in the back, which also includes the garrison, and I took it out, of course, and it's either in the folder I have with maps, or it isn't. Docking station, see. So we got the inside the Imperial base. This is a typical Imperial garrison base. It's straight out of the game books, the source books. The difference is this has a subterranean section below with floats that keep it afloat on the surface, and it's modified to be adjustable or handle the aquatic environment. Excuse me. Where are the Imperial crowds? Typical Imperial garrison base houses over 3,000. Southern base has less than 250, in part because it's so difficult to get material and men and material to the system, and the Imperial Empire is not quite yet willing to resort to sending Star Destroyers with its inhibitors turned off. The base from the outside, last door, the typical getting into the garrison, inside the garrison. So, that in mind, once your player characters manage to get into the garrison, the base is still designed to handle 3,000 plus staff, soldiers, and so on and so forth like that. So it is a huge, fast, spookily empty facility with the occasional patrol or the occasional technician, maybe droid, wandering around taking care of things and dealing with stuff. Give me a second here. Alright, back. Took a brief pause there. And I can't tell if I'm getting better at pausing this thing or not. I attempted to put a little pause icon or something in it, but I'm not sure how to go about doing it with this particular program. So, inside the garrison, current population, breakdown, stormtroopers, sea troopers, TIE fighter pilots, etc., etc., etc. Roughly 207 crew in the with an additional roughly 38 vehicles. Connect leads the PCs through an unmanned launch port without alerting the base. Connecting pools in another matter. The occupied observation deck looks out over the pool, providing perfect line of sight for the deck crew and their automatic laser cannon. Waste disposal, stormtrooper patrols, garrison level 1, garrison level 2, native life form. Amphibious native life form has gotten into the garrison. This counter can occur anywhere in the waste disposal units, the air ducts, or anywhere on levels 2 or 3. Venture script that you would have your players read at the beginning. Coral Caves, City of Fitzay, Heck the Sedran Priest, the Commander Abin and the Sea Troopers, Spaceboat Explorer. This is a rebel craft that the Rebellion, if the player characters didn't have their own ship, had provided. Character Renegade Leader, or Kara. Garrison levels 4 and 5. Finding things out. It's always a trick right there, finding things out. I love the mustache. Moore's Order. No one at the base knows anything about the Alliance Dignitary. The Sedrans, most technology security personnel not any knowledge of the Sedrans. One of them might admit that they're seen a SEAL man at the base talking to Abin. New arrivals, plans, access, maps. Stormtrooper security barracks. Base security. Base on alert. Medical base. Isolate all these different locations. Event 5, looking in on Abin. Player characters in the monitor camera actually sneak up to level 6. They see Commander Abin in conference with Cedric Carrack. See the pull out before more about Carrack. Carrack is a huge, vicious-looking and wears dark blue armband covered in gray with a broken shell symbol of the Renegades. Peck recognizes and names one-time Bishop of War immediately. The PCs see Carrack smile evilly, showing rows of sharpened teeth. So these are my terms. Accepted, Commander Abin. Abin smiles back, but cannot match the Sidran's look. They are, he says. The attack begins in 3 days. Carrack spreads his webbed hands wide and clasps them together as he says, very well, I pledged my age upon the waking of the great shudder. Well, the scene can be recorded if anyone has a holo recorder. Supply shuttle arrives. Warning klaxon sound, voice echoes from hidden microphones. The supply shuttle's arrived. All technical and security personnel, please report the vehicle bay for AT-AT activation. Without warning, people appear all over the place, running in all directions. They don't seem to notice you, but that probably won't last forever. Anyway, this is floating in a berth suspended in its glory is a modified AT-AT, a swimmer. Terrible beast head-like head and powerful turtle-like shell, blaster resistant armor, and deadly blaster cannon. Monster vehicle looks at warriors impressive and is dangerous looking. The rumbles, repulsors, and projectors lowered into the sea level pool, and then the swimmer switches on its own engines and dives out of sight. There's a visual of that particular machine. Excuse me for having some sinus issues. It's not going on noon, so it's not really that late early in the morning. No more 6 stormtroopers at time at one time if we come into it. Imperial Garrison map key. Guidelines for combined actions. Episode 4, the Renegade Raid. Return to Fitzay. The PCs return to Fitzay from the Imperial base after quick cinematic fade in, fade out. PCs went to the Imperial base first and have not yet seen Fitzay go to run Episode 2 now. Stage 1, the raiding band approaches from the mountains using rocky peaks for cover. They carry sacks of stingerfish, spears, spear guns, and sun guns, which are used sparingly since they do not have many replacement crystals. This stage occurs before the PCs arrive or before they finish peeking with Cardo. Stage 2, one female renegade approaches the guard post at the base of the mountains, etc., etc. Stage 3, the renegades sneak into the marketplace to release the stingerfish. These jelly-like creatures savage attack all moving objects. Stage 4, the player characters get involved either by assisting the marketplace or by going to the aid of the Lord Tower guards. When they arrive to the nearest tower, however, they are too late. Guards are dead. Stage 5, 2/3 of the renegades secure the opening and the shell and prepare for siege. Final third, break off a small piece of the coral within the dome, race north to escape. Whenever the gauge approaches the coral, the force users feel waves of fear intensify. And a scream of pain that only those sensitive to the force can hear echoes through their souls. Rakira, especially sensitive to the sense, screams along with the hurting coral. See the sun caves for more information. Chasing the renegade. The sun caves. High Priest, thank you for aiding Fitz-Sayen's time of need. What I am about to show you is the greatest gift that was ever bestowed upon unworthy people. I ask only that you show proper respect to the power we have been given. With that card, I manipulates the hidden mechanism near the slight crack in the dome. Even the small amount of light that spills from the slight opening is blinding. A little grinding hum fills the air, the water. The bright crack, the golden crack awakens, and even more incredibly bright golden beams shoot out to the sea. The once green water is already a pale yellow, now a gleam of bright gold dazzling your eyes and filling you with a sense of excitement and power. The golden glow surrounds you, binds you. You feel your wounds and fatigue disappear. Any wounds the player characters suffer to heal in the basking light of the golden sun. As the dome opens further, they recede into the ocean bottom, and the dazzling coral caves appear in full view. The ocean, as far as the eye can see, is turned gold. What is golden sun? It is a living, intelligent organism made up of thousands of tiny polyps. These polyps live within the coral reef and have communal conscience. Once the shell dome is open, the reef can be seen. The reef has hollows and passages that form a network of chambers with centers called the coral or sun caves. The coral dwellers have an affinity for the force, although they do not know it by that name. Their lives in the glow of the force, and as well as power generated by thousands of interconnected minds produced by the powerful effects of the golden sun. Fortunately, Cardo and the Sedrins do not see the coral as a living, intelligent entity. They see it as something great and powerful, but as a tool, not as an equal life form. Because of this, the coral is sad and melancholy. Wants to share its joy with the entire planet all the time, not just when the dome is open. While few Sedrins are strong enough, force none are strong enough as any of the force-using PCs. Golden Sun is static, and some other life form can hear it, tries whenever it can to contact the PCs through the force. Of those Sedrins who are strong in the force, Karak and Cardo are the most powerful, but Karak has seen the power, follows a pseudo dark side, and Cardo refuses to go any further with his own studies, and is content to be able to communicate with the coral in a limited way. More about Golden Sun. Renegade Prisoner. You see a pretty potent possible entity there. Karak Settlement, opening parlay, talking with Fala. A bunch of different things that she missed. In the past, the parlay, the conversations in formal stylistic Fala listens to conjunct arguments, but still has strong opinions of her own. Cardo and Peck do their best to present their side of things, but it should be up to PCs to provide the convincing arguments to finally sway Fala. According to Fala's father, Karak, the Fitz, they are ruled by a greedy power monger. Fala asks one PC to be honest appraisal of Cardo. She ignores Peck. Obviously, Fala is Karak's daughter, right? Seeing Mars Orden, success or failure, opening salvo. So via the Imperial attack. And that's going to go to PCs in the battle. Fighting the swimmer. Destroying the swimmer. Siege of the Sun Caves. Episode 6. Into the Sun Caves to deal with the rebels. The rebels pack follow. Rakira must enter the Sun Caves, hunt down the evil Karak, but it won't be easy as they think. Not only does Karak have 6 bodyguards and a fearsome resort. I'm assuming this is the resort. What's the time they reach the Karak? Final battle. Karak's tactics. Win or lose. Could away. Imperial defeat. Rewards. And the thing. Right. So I remember running this campaign module, I think, twice. I did use reference material a number of times for dealing with water-based planets to some degree. The complexity of getting in and out of the system was what made it so something you didn't want to have for regular type of adventures where you need a lot of mobility for space travel and things like that. So it is an interesting piece of game history, if you will, and Star Wars beta canon lore based from Legends, right? And which, if you're not familiar with the concept, alpha or canon is what's considered acceptable by the current genre or series or movie or books or whatever that you're dealing with. And then of course there are, the next thing is beta canon. This is stuff that's like these game supplements and things that were created that are based on something and not meant to be linked into something. So you can build and expand in Star Wars. That's one of the beautiful things about the game system. It's such a vast universe. There are entire sectors and sections of the galaxy that your characters can frolic in adventure and flop around in and encounter things that you'll never see in the movies or the TV series or animated series or anything of that nature, because they're not pertinent. Now, one of the interesting sidebars to Star Wars is the fact that with hyperdrive, hyper routes, regularly maintained and patrol the hyper routes allow for you to get around the galaxy pretty quickly. In a matter of hours and days, you can be from one side of the galaxy to the other, in theory. Now, I've always had mixed opinions on that, because there are mechanics in the game for how fast a ship can travel based on their hyperdrive. So obviously, the slower the hyperdrive, the longer it should take to get from point A to point B, no matter how fast the hyperlane is or how accurate it is. And then, of course, there's all kinds of other whether something gets into the hyperspace lane, or there's an interdiction, or there's natural conjunction areas where you have to slow down and plot your way through a briar patch, if you will. But for the most part, yeah, it is what it is. So we have Battle for the Golden Sun, and this is the Fat Man saying, "Game on."